Dr. Richmond, what a pleasure.
Good to see you.
I believe, according to Mark Kelly, I'm the only scientist, which is to say I had a couple articles published as a geologist in peer-reviewed journals. So Senator Kelly refers to himself as an engineer, which I would argue with. I think there's several.
I like to think that we're all scientists at some level.
One hopes. If being a scientist is careful observation of the world around us and using those observations as the foundation for a better life, then yes, I hope we all are. The Restore and Modernize Our National Laboratories Act calls out for the Office of Science as the specific recipient of at least 1/6 of the bill's funding.
Yeah.
And I certainly, obviously Colorado has a lot of labs, a number of energy labs. I'm a big fan, but also see no reason why other agencies that oversee labs shouldn't also get called out to make sure that we integrate and allocate properly all the funding for research, and that we're getting the maximum benefit and synergy by that integrated funding. Yeah. So do you see any harm in requiring minimum amounts of funding for other DOE agencies in addition to the Office of Science?
You know, this is an important issue because right now we need to be, in my mind, there's a lot of interesting research going on right now, but there's also some really urgent things that we need to do. And the Office of Science has a big role, but so do the applied labs, like in your state with NREL. And so we'd have to go back. I mean, I have to, just getting started with this, I need to understand whether there's what the minimum should be. But all I can say is we need to have all the labs, if whatever funding can permit, to be able to do what they need to get done in order to work through these fundamental and applied issues as we go to deployment.
I couldn't agree more. But I'll keep following, and because I do think that we have to figure out how we're going to integrate and coordinate all the different funding that we do through the federal government.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see the inclusion of the Emerging Biological Threat Preparedness Research Initiative within the Office of Science in the DOE Science for the Future Act. I think this is exactly what pandemic preparedness is all about, something I've certainly been speaking about for close to a year now. If this bill is enacted, how will DOE prioritize the initiative and work with private sector researchers on the R&D efforts?
Well, you know, they've already made contacts with industry already. So, for example, let me give you a good example, and that is, do you realize that for most all drugs that are commercially created, put out on the market, they have to have an X-ray structure of the crystal structure of it, right? Where are they going to do that, right? Where are you going to do that? You got to do that at a DOE light source. Who else has got a light source? NIH doesn't have a light source. We got the light sources, right? Right?
Sure.
So when you think about the fact that we've already been connecting with companies in that area, in addition to the COVID-related issues, which they're continuing to work on now. But it's really, you know, what I find really exciting, since I've been around a while, so when I reflect back on the Office of Science when I was chair of BSAC many years ago, there was sort of, ooh, got to stay away from the biological stuff because NIH does that stuff. And although you could tinker in it, there was a fear that there would be looked at as the redundancy, when actually it's a true partnership today with regards to working with other agencies through the BRAVE initiative as well as with companies. And the sense of the freedom that I see now of the Office of Science being willing and happy to start working with industry in order to help them along, as well as get the ideas of what discoveries still need to be done, is a transformation that, again, I welcome, and I've been so happy to see that in my few months that I've been on the post.
Great. Perfect. If you talk to almost any lead researcher in basic science today, they'll tell you, or at least they tell me, that too much of their time is occupied with paperwork, filling out forms, not the research aspect. I've heard concerns from both university institutions in Colorado and other states, but as well in some of the agency labs, that the research security requirements in this bill that we're talking about could add to that requirement of time substantially. And I think we do have to balance our need for security with freeing up our scientists to do what they do best, which is think, discuss, and innovate. So would DOE support taking a more holistic interagency approach to this overall topic so that we could maybe streamline some of what the reporting requirements are?
Well, that's exactly where we're going. That's exactly where we're going, because we can't afford to have people wasting their talent on the fact that this agency does something different than this agency does something, and this agency. Now, most people that are funded by to do their science can't survive on one grant. They have 2 or 3. I've always had, in my program, I always had 2 or 3. And so, and there's paperwork associated with each of those, and there's rules associated with each of those. And so if now with the security issues, you also have to have practices in place that are different for all 3, it's not going to work, and people are going to figure out how to get through, wiggle their way through the, the lowest barrier. So I think it's really important that the agencies working together, and that's what we are doing, is trying to work across agencies. As you may recall, I served on the National Science Board before I took this position for 10 years, and they understand this issue too.
Right.
So absolutely.
Well, if we can be of any help, obviously I think I speak for many senators when I say that we would work diligently to try and systematize and integrate all this reporting requirements.
We'll take your help. We'll take your help. Because it really does need to be agency-wide. It needs to be agency-wide.
Thank you. I yield.